Hi, my name is David West. I'm Executive Director of the Greater Wesley Chapel Chamber of Commerce in Central Florida, Tampa Bay area. I'm joined here today by our State Representative from District 61, Will Weatherford. Will, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, a pleasure, and thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to us today about Wesley Chapel area and the state of Florida as a whole, and things that are happening in the legislature that we probably need to know about.
Sure.
First, according to the latest, I guess you have to read the newspaper and see that things aren't going so well economically right now, and there's a great shortfall going on these days. So what's the situation as far as the state's concerned financially?
Yeah, well, I think most people recognize that there's a large unemployment in the state of Florida. It's the highest we've had in 35, 40 years. It's 13% in the Tampa Bay area. So it's just a lot of people that are unemployed. You then have another segment of people who are employed, but they're not making enough money to provide for their family. We call that underemployed. And so we've got an underemployed population out there as well. Because of all that and what's happening in the economy and growth slowing down in the state of Florida, it's caused a huge shortfall in what we call our budget. And our budget primarily funds things like education. It funds things like healthcare. It funds our prison system, all the agencies that we have. And so it's been really tough to try to budget our resources when the dollar amount just continues to wither away. So we're doing the best that we can to try to live within our means, just like small businesses do, so that we can weather this storm.
So can we solve the problem just by getting rid of all the agencies and human health care and healthcare and the human services, that sort of thing?
No, I mean, not only do you not want to do that, but you couldn't do that. I mean, there are certain functions in government that we probably should get out of. And I'm a believer that government doesn't create jobs, people create jobs, and businesses create jobs. But that being said, there are some essential functions of government. Public safety is one that's very important. Education is another. Transportation, all these things that we have to do and we have to pay for. So we're trying to prioritize our budget and our spending, just like every citizen is, just like every small business owner is, trying to figure out a way to live within the means that you've got.
So what do you see the state government doing in the near future to try to address this situation?
Well, two things. I mean, the first is we're going to make cuts. There's no way around it. I think people and the citizens of the state of Florida expect us to reduce spending. We have a constitutional requirement to balance our budget, which means we can't spend money we don't have. So we're going to be making cuts probably across the board. We're going to try to prioritize those cuts, but there will be cuts in almost every area of state government. But on top of that, we're also going to try to create jobs. I mean, we're going to try to figure out ways to take the burden off of small business, get rid of some of the regulations that prevent someone from starting a new business or from expanding their existing business. Looking at our tax structure, what are things that we can do to incentivize certain types of companies to come to the state of Florida? We want to let people know all over the country that we're open for business and we want their business.
Well, the Chamber of Commerce will really appreciate that, as will all the small businesses they represent, so thank you for that. And what can the average citizen of the state of Florida and the Wesley Chapel area do to help with this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Wesley Chapel is a great example of an area that had tremendous growth. And between 2000 and 2006, or even 2007, homes were going up, businesses were popping up. It was just busting at the seams. Now you've seen a slowdown. There's a lot of homes in foreclosure. There's a lot of businesses struggling to make it. And so I think as citizens, what we can do is, first of all, don't be scared. Don't be afraid of the future and what lies ahead. I firmly believe that this is the United States of America. We dig our way out of these holes. We will find a way to survive, but it's hard. And I think sometimes part of the problem is when people think that there's a recession, they create one or make it worse by holding back their money and not spending and not contributing to the economy. And so what I would tell people is do the best you can to spend money wisely, but invest your dollars. Don't run scared. If you have an opportunity to expand your business, take advantage of it. If there's some government policy standing in your way, go talk to your county commissioner, go talk to your state representative, petition your government to make sure that they understand that there are barriers to your business. But what I would tell people is I think it's a great opportunity right now. There are good buys out there if you're in the real estate business. There are some good opportunities for our citizens. They just have to take advantage of them. And frankly, I think another thing is they ought to be asking for government to figure out ways to prioritize the money that they have and to invest in what I think is the most important thing, which is our education system. So, make sure that our policymakers are addressing the needs of our students, because that's the future of our economy. And there's nothing we can do to get ourselves out of this in the short term, but the long term, we can diversify our economy through having good universities, good school system in our K through 12, and having a talent pool that's ready to go into the 21st century.
So as far as the recession is concerned, we should refuse to participate if possible in that and keep from that side of our participation. But going back to education again, we've got a couple of great high schools there in the West Chapel area. We've got West Chapel High School and Wiregrass Ranch, both great schools. Yeah. But that is a real critical issue for the state of Florida right now, is education. And I understand you now are the chairman of the Education Council for the state of Florida. And you've got some ideas of things we can do to make us more competitive, not only nationally, but globally. Would you share some of those ideas with us?
Absolutely. I mean, we're doing a lot of things. I'll give you some examples. One is we've heard a lot of complaints about the FCAT in high schools. We're going to be moving towards a model that's called end-of-course exams, where we're going to be phasing out the FCAT and moving more towards an end-of-course exam model, which means when you take Algebra 1, we're going to find out if you know Algebra 1 at the end of the school year after you take the class. You're going to take a test. And unless you pass the test, you're not going to graduate high school. And there's going to be about 6 courses like that in English and science and in math and all the core areas that are in the FCAT. We're going to make it more towards the end-of-course exam, so you take the test as you learn the material. We think that's a better way to do it. We're looking at issues like class size. There was a class size amendment that passed with good intentions 8 years ago, but it's causing a lot of problems in our state. And the final implementation of it is really undoable and is impossible for our administrators to do. So we're trying to create a little bit of flexibility with class size. Not only does it save us money, but it saves us from a logistical nightmare, because if we don't fix it, there'll be massive busing across the school districts. You may have, Pasco County may have on one side, like the east side may have capacity, and on the west side their schools don't have capacity. You could end up having students in West Pasco bust all the way to East Pasco just to find room, and that's not good. Breaking up families is not good. Busing students across the county line is not good. So we've got to figure out a way to fix the class size amendment. One other thing I'll mention to you that I think is very important that we are looking at is performance pay. Teachers work very hard, and we've got some wonderful teachers here in Pasco and in the state of Florida. We ought to be paying them based off of what they're worth, not just based off of how long they've been there. And right now, our pay structure is totally focused on tenure and how long you've been there. We've got some great teachers who've only been teaching for 5 years, but if they're producing the best students, they should be rewarded for that. And so we're trying to figure out creative ways to pay our teachers what they're worth.
Sounds like some common sense solutions you're trying to drive through, which means you're probably going to have a hard time doing it, right?
Yes. In government, usually common sense is not easy to achieve. But I think in times like this, people are looking for leadership, and they want people to make the tough decisions and not look for the easy way out. And that's what I'm trying to do, and hopefully that's what we'll do in Tallahassee.
Well, I think you're the man to do that. Any final words of advice or message to the people of Wesley Chapel?
No, I mean, I live in Wesley Chapel. I grew up in Lana Lakes. Central Pasco is near and dear to my heart. And the future of Wesley Chapel, I'm so, to use a Wall Street term, I'm bullish on Wesley Chapel. I think the future for Wesley Chapel is bright. I think if I'm a business, I think that's a place I want to be. If I'm a resident, it's a great place to live. The proximity to Tampa, it's really a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And I think when the roaring times come back, which they will, hopefully we'll be prepared for them.
Well, Will, we're proud to have you live in Wesley Chapel, and also thankful that you are an honorary member of our board of directors. We appreciate that very much. All you do for us locally and throughout the state. Thank you for taking time with us today, and look forward to meeting with you again.
Thank you very much.